Today we're going to be focusing on getting a tight bass sound with just two simple plugins. But before we jump in, if you're new to the channel, welcome to the Production Den. My name is Jeremy and I post new videos every week on music production for songwriters and music producers. So if you're not subscribed yet, go ahead and subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you can get alerted whenever I post a new video. Let's jump in. So this is the channel setup for the bass rig that I'm using. The first plugin that I'm using is Guitar Rig 5. And then the second plugin is the VC2A, also by Native Instruments. Now wait a second and don't check out. Just because it's Native Instruments plugins, I'm going to show you a little bit later how you can do this with just FL Studio stock plugins. So stick around for that. So on Guitar Rig, the setting that I'm using is under the presets. It's bass amps, and then I go into DI bass and I load up that preset. Sometimes I'll use clean bass, but in this instance, I'm using the DI bass, and honestly, I don't think I touched anything in this preset at all. And then the VC2A, all I'm really doing is using this for peak reduction and just to help even out the performance a little bit. I'm not really messing with the gain all that much on this side. And so this is the tone that I'm getting out of the bass when I have this basic setup. I'm not the world's most phenomenal bassist. My main instrument is guitar, but I can do a passable bass job on a song. So it doesn't sound too bad. Gives you a pretty decent tone for bass if you're trying to record something. If you like this video and it's helping you out, go ahead and crunch that like button. So I'm gonna walk you through another setup that you can use if you just have the FL Studio native plugins. The first plugin that I added in, so if we come down here to the input, which is the bass, doesn't sound too bad, but I wanted to get a little more tone out of it. So I used the sound godizer to really emphasize some of those higher parts. And then I actually used Destructor. And so what I'm doing on Destructor is using a little bit of distortion to distort the front tone of it. And I'm using the Blood Overdrive setting. I've got the preamp down pretty low, and I have the post filter up a little bit. And then I have the output set down a little bit. So this is what that first part of that chain is doing. It's just giving it a little bit more body. And then the next thing that I did was actually use the speaker model. And so I used this under this preset, the cabinet's mono. I used the medium setting on that. And then I just didn't really mess with anything except for the output. So it just creates more of a mono signal with that bass tone. And then the next plugin that I used, or the next setting in here, was to turn on another distortion and use this as a soft clipper. So it's kind of emulating what that LA2A was doing. It's just taming some of the dynamics for the bass. But then I felt like it lost a little bit of the tone. So I decided to go ahead and add in a chorus. And you'll see that I turned the mix down pretty low, set it into a mono mode on this one, and then just made sure, I don't think I adjusted anything else except for the color, maybe a little bit to turn that down. So you get a pretty decent bass tone out of that as well. So that's another thing that you can do if you don't necessarily have the Native Instruments plugins. You can use some of these plugins to create a similar kind of tone. It's not exactly the same, but it gives you a pretty decent result. And if you're interested in getting this preset for this bass mixer track, I can include that as a preset that you can download from the link in the description below. Now be sure to check out this next video if you want to dive deeper into recording bass in FL Studio, and I will see you in the next round.